Hey guys, it's Nikki D from Nikki D with Details and OJ. You can catch our show on Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. here at the Voice of Stockton. We do Hollywood interviews, local interviews, restaurants, food, you name it, we do it. If I'm not talking, I'm eating.
Hey, it's Details, and I'm the awkward guy on the show. But you know what? You also can tell me, am I right or am I wrong on the show, as I give you the top 5 questions of the day. And you can hear me play the little thing I like to call my bell.
And this is OJ, the MMJ, the man on the street. He was happening with our town and saying, okay, do you belong here? I'm like, of course. Oh, yeah.
All right. So make sure you catch our show on Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. here only at
The Voice of Stockton.
My name is Miriam, and I am the Voice of Stockton.
Hi, this is Joy Neas with Behind the Art Scene at KXVS, the Voice of Stockton. And today I have Martina Morio. She's the president of the Save Downtown Stockton Foundation. And I'd like to thank Martina for coming and being the guest.
Thank you very much for having me, Joy. Thank you.
So why don't you tell everybody what the Save Downtown Stockton Foundation does? What is the purpose?
The purpose of our nonprofit foundation is to act really the preservation for historic art and buildings in downtown Stockton, and that's a big title and can have many things: buildings, structures, facades. So we also want to build partnerships with other organizations that want to beautify downtown Stockton and revitalize it. So there are many different layers to the Safe Downtown Stockton Foundation. We are very interested in developing further projects in the future. But yeah, so the Inspire project is our project for the last 3 years.
Yeah. So how did you get involved? How did you become the president?
Well, I showed up for every meeting, I guess. But actually, I was invited to the group by a gentleman by the name of Bob Hong. He's very well known in Stockton. I didn't know him then or many other people in Stockton, but he came to my porch one afternoon for lemonade and a chat, and little did I know he was recruiting me for the foundation. And then I joined, met Linda DeRivi and Christina Frankel, and yeah, that was the beginning of a very good story for me, being new in Stockton.
So when did you move to Stockton?
My husband and I moved to Stockton 7 years ago already. Time flies. From San Francisco.
Oh wow! Why Stockton?
Why? Yeah, good question. We were renting our flat in San Francisco, and it was during 2010. The economy went downward, and we owned this cottage on Baker Street, but had rented it out, and then the tenant stopped paying her portion of the rent, and we had to pay our rent in San Francisco. It didn't make sense, so we just decided it's best to move to Stockton and live in the house we own.
Okay.
And actually, I'll never forget the last walk that I took in my neighborhood in San Francisco, and I told people we were moving to Stockton, and 9 out of 10 said, "Oh my God, why?" So I cried all the way home. I remember that afternoon. It wasn't a happy day. And so I investigated together with my husband. Every weekend we would drive around town and the neighborhood and explored the Delta, the parks, and all the beauty that we have here. And I wanted to go back a few months later and tell everybody, come to Stockton and check it out for yourself.
Yeah. Yes,
so it's
exactly.
beautiful.
So how did you end up owning the Baker Street house?
Oh, that was a purchase that my husband did with a real estate friend many years ago. So, and it was always rented, and we never came here. There was no reason to. But so then we came here and we started renovating. So yeah.
So yes. So actually, we've lived here. Next year will be 25 years. So we came in 1993. And one of my cousins, she moved to Oakdale and bought a Kaufman and Broad house. And we had been renting since we got married. and we wanted to buy a house, so we thought, oh, we should look at Kaufman and Broad, and so we decided to come to Stockton, and then we bought our house here. And all I knew about Stockton was, it was on the Big Valley. They always talked about going to Stockton, and I said, oh yeah, gotta go to Stockton. But I just love it, and so many people, they have the same reaction that you had. They say, oh, there's nothing to do in Stockton. Oh, it's the crime capital. Da 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 da. And I grew up in Richmond myself, and I said, oh, I just love Stockton, all the history, the waterfront, the cultures, all the art. That's one of the things that bothers me most, though. We have such beauty here, but I think the city, they don't really know how to take care of the historic properties, and they don't really appreciate it. We have all the different stories, but I always hear people talk about it on Facebook, but we're not doing all that we could, and that's why I'm really happy with the Save Downtown Stockton Foundation that's come about. Actually, I can't even remember the year, but I was getting my master's in urban planning, and I learned how to do preservation and what it takes. Unfortunately, pretty much, if you want to preserve something, you're going to have to sue somebody.
That's
and
unfortunate.
But that's what I learned. That there aren't a lot of laws and protections for historic properties. But fortunately, I met Linda DeRivi, like you did, and I met Bob Hong and Mel Corin, and just all these exceptional people who want to save what we have. And at that time, they were going to tear down. The city was going to tear down 8 historic downtown hotels.
Yes.
And they wanted to just wipe these things out. 5 of them were on Main Street. So, it would have just totally obliterated Main Street. And so, fortunately, the whole group of us, Linda DeRivi, Bob Hong, Mel, me, whole group got together, and we formed, it's called Save Old Stockton. And we sued the city of Stockton. We went to the city council meeting, and the city council at that time, I think it was about 2009, the city council, they had already gone out and hired a demolition contractor to go start bulldozing everything. And before they even had at the meeting, we were supposed to talk about it. And they had already decided, made up their mind. And so we all went and gave testimony, and it was, we need to save it and honor the history and everything. And they said, oh no, we're just going to go ahead and bulldoze everything. So I contacted a lawyer, the foremost preservation lawyer, Susan Brandt Hawley, and she was the person that I learned about when I was going to school at San Jose State. And she ended up having a stay of demolition, so they wouldn't demolish any of the buildings, and we were able to save 5 of the 8 hotels.
Yeah, wonderful. Good job. Thank you very much. I grew up in Europe, in Germany, and I traveled throughout Europe, and obviously there is a lot of history and old buildings, architecture, beauty, that the people preserved and for generations to come. So for me, this was really a natural fit to kind of combine my background a little bit with the vision that I have for our city. And I was determined that I want to live in a beautiful city, which I am, but it can use a little bit more, love here and there, and painting and preserving and and rebuilding. So I'm very, very happy to be involved in that. And I've been involved for the last 7 years with my husband renovating our house, which there are some similarities. We did tear out the whole kitchen, but we kept certain elements of the structure.
What kind of house is it?
It's a cottage. It's almost 100 years old. Yeah, it's blue and white, my favorite colors.
Does it have a porch? Or?
Yes, it has a little porch.
That's what I want. That's my house.
Yes, yes. Welcome anytime. So you have my number.
So,
Yeah.
why don't you describe the Spire project? Because that's the main project that
Yes.
Save Downtown Stockton
Yes, thank you
Foundation is
for
working on.
mentioning that. Of course, the Inspire project, we have been working on the project for the last 3 years, is the replacement of the Hunter Square spire, which used to sit in front of City Hall downtown Stockton, atop of a fountain. It was a water feature. It was designed by Glenn Mortensen, who also designed Burns Tower at UOP. So he's a very prominent architect. Actually, Linda Dorivi worked for him for many years, and before she started her own business, and worked with Christina Frankel. So the two women knew the designer of this artwork. It's basically 16 feet tall, has a few copper pipes that will be placed inside Martin Luther King Plaza, we hope. We work with the city on finding the best fitting location for it. And there was one area along the waterfront by the Neas restaurant plaza, but it wasn't prominent enough. There are beautiful palm trees, and it would be kind of overlooked. But the other location the city offered us was the Martin Luther King Jr. Plaza, right across from Cesar Chavez Library and the Civic Auditorium. And it was really perfect, surrounded by beautiful trees. Actually, Linda Dorivi's grandfather planted some of the trees in the plaza. So it had a personal connection too. And I noticed for the last 7 years that I drove around the plaza that the little area in the middle, in the center, was really unattended to. I believe there was a fountain at one point.
Yeah. In all the years that I've lived here, I know that there's like the basin for the fountain, but I don't remember the fountain ever going. So,
We heard there was a fountain at one point,
yeah.
and not to have a fountain makes sense with, like, we don't want to demonstrate water running when we're in water shortage for so many years ongoing. And so when we started this project to really save the spire and save this historic piece of artwork that is over 50 years old, Mr. Mortensen is in his 90s now, so wouldn't it be wonderful to see it erected again?
Exactly.
And for all of Stockton to drive by and be proud of it, that we preserve something of beauty, and it adds wealth and charm to our city and to the plaza. And it even more so, it connects the veterans, it connects the African American community. I can see in the future Mexican fairs and fiestas, so it should bring the community together and unite. So it's a symbol. And the spire, as it reaches up in the sky, is also, my vision or our vision, that we look up in Stockton. We aim our hopes high, and we rise to the occasion. Right.
So one of the interesting things that you guys did, you had a competition.
Yeah.
And whether the spire was going to be put in a planter or made a sundial.
Yeah.
And I know I was so excited when I heard sundial. I'm going, sundial, yes, sundial. Yeah. So the sundial won. And so how would that work? What would the features be?
So I wish Christina Frankel were here, because she could explain to you in detail how the sundial actually works. But the public voted for a sundial rather than a succulent garden on the base of it. so there are certain markers every time and every day of the year, and you can allocate, I believe, a certain spot dedicated to your birthday or to your wedding date, or so it's educational, definitely, for children and adults, and I will have to really dive in and learn more about it. So when I'm standing in front of it, I can really explain it better. But the actual spire will be raised up about 10 feet approximately, and that is why we are having these fundraising events, just in case that we do not get part of the work or the majority of the work actually donated. We have the backup money so we can build it ourselves. But it will be elevated from the ground up so that you cannot actually touch it.
Okay. So what is the spire actually going to be placed in that basin, or is that basin going to be demolished?
No,
or,
the basin will stay and will be the outline.
Okay, the outline.
So the sundial will be within it.
Okay.
And then the center of it will have the kind of a podium or pedestal,
sure.
so to speak, for the actual artwork.
Okay.
So.
And then I heard there was going to be some seating around and a shade structure and
well, seating and shade structure just add more money to the project.
Right,
We're trying to keep it simple. We have the vision, of course. Besides a prominent brick walkway leading up to the artwork, to have a donor wall erected. Seating, perhaps. I mean, this project can grow,
right.
if the city's interested, if the residents of Stockton are interested. This project can grow into actually something more.
So was it going to include a stage, or?
Well, that's what I mean. For example, that could be a creative idea to make it a performing stage, have seating around it, even if it's not permanent seating, but and have a local artist perform there. Why not? That could happen in the future.
Right.
So
about the fundraising, I know you guys have had several lovely events at the Golf and Country Club. And,
yes.
And the last one, Brandon James, he was announced as the winner of the song contest for Stockton, and he got to sing his song with his father, was playing and music, and so that was a real treat. What else are you guys doing to raise money?
Well, we are very fortunate to have such wonderful sponsors like Stephanie Barroso and her husband Juan, who are the new owners of Derivi Castellanos Architecture. They have been so generous in sponsoring our event at the Stockton Golf and Country Club, and well, without them we couldn't have done what we've done in the last few years, and been able to raise at least some money. And it's a little bit difficult also if you don't have the green light on the construction yet.
Right,
so
right.
That being said, we're a little bit gentle. But once we get the final approval, then we're going full force ahead.
So I know you guys, it's such a job to get approvals in the city of Stockton. We can really improve on that. But it's almost ready to be approved, right?
Yes, I believe it is. And that's an exciting time. After spending so many meetings and brainstormings and events, and so now we'll have a chance to go in front of City Council, hopefully next month, and present the project as it is. We've had meetings with city planners in the past, so there's always room for improvement, Joy.
Sure. So what is that possible date that we can have?
The possible date is the end of June 20th, but we are advised to check in the week before, the Wednesday before. So, but once we know it's really on the agenda, then we would let everyone know to please.
Yeah, so that's one of the difficulties about being involved in trying to make a difference in city government, but it's put on the agenda, and you don't know until like the Wednesday before the upcoming Tuesday. So there's not a whole lot, it's just a few days to get the word out, but we need as many people as can pack that city hall. Right now I'm calling all you guys, all you Facebook people on the Facebook history group. I think there's over 1,000. Maybe you guys could come and pack the city hall and tell them that we want to reuse that spire, put it in the middle of Martin Luther King Park, and have it be, a beautiful historic art feature that will live on. I was so distressed when they came and they were tearing down Hunter Square. That's like the most historic place in Stockton. When Captain Weber, he founded Stockton in 1850, and he dedicated that as the public plaza. And right now the city at that time turned the Hunter Square over to the state of California to be made the courthouse. We don't have any more plaza now.
Yeah, so we have the MLK Plaza.
Okay.
MLK Junior Plaza.
So we're just going to have to shift, and I keep thinking, hearing that the city, they're going to be moving into the Chase building. I'd love to see that plaza be used for art and for events. And right now you can't even you can barely walk in the plaza. I mean, they don't want you to do anything there. So we need to have public plazas. That it's so important for people to have places to meet and to have arts experiences.
Yes.
To have sculpture. To have a new dance group. They're right now they're going to be having a grand opening on Saturday, and they're right across from the city hall. And I talked to them. It's called VIP Yes CYTP. And but they do praise dancing, they do African dance, they do all different kind of hip hop and jazz, and they're just a phenomenal group. I've seen perform. They've been at the Art Splash, been at Art Against Violence at the fairgrounds. But I can just envision them coming over when we had the big dedication of the spire and doing a big praise dance.
And that'd be wonderful.
That it's actually happened. Here we have, you guys were having this as a fundraiser, I think?
Well, we had it just as a little souvenir that we gave to people who wanted more information about our project, and it's a lightweight kind of roll-up shopping bag. But
so now, with the shopping bag law, they made a really nice little bag. It's called Be Inspired. I love, the message that, we can inspire each other, and at your, at the fundraisers, you had all the little rocks that said inspire. They were painted on and everything. So I think, Stockton, we need as much inspiration as much positivity as we can get.
Yeah.
So.
But I met so many wonderful people since moving here to Stockton, and they are all inspired and they have so much to contribute. So I think it's just maybe a matter of time to learn to trust that it's important to voice your opinions and inspirations, and then trust that the city will be behind you. So, and I mean, that's at least our view for our project. So we're attempting various projects, and after this one, there will be many more to come, and but it's all in good faith and in good teamwork and cooperation. So
what are some of the other projects?
I was almost thinking you might ask this, but so we want to be involved in like historic preservation. That means we want to work with building owners to get, for example, the code to be a historic building, to go through and lead them through the process. Now, I'm not an expert or architect, so that would be all in the hands of Christina Frankel and Linda DeRivi. But we're all involved, all the volunteers on our team. So that's, for example, one thing we want to work on.
Because now one thing you were talking about, you lived are from Germany.
Yeah.
And what age of the buildings would you say
Oh my God,
they have over there?
In my small town in Germany, I grew up, we have buildings from the Renaissance. So, and it may just be the facade and the back is modern and the inside totally modern. For example, look at Berlin, the beautiful buildings that were destroyed during the war. Irreplaceable.
Right.
So once something is down, demolished, you can never recreate it like
So in America, things aren't as old, as over in Europe and all. But the actual the criteria for landmarks and for historic buildings is anything over 50 years or older.
50 years old.
And Stockton was founded in 1850. So, it is one of the oldest, cities around, and it has some of the oldest buildings around. I know that the commercial building, that was built in 1874. That was one of the hotels the city wanted to demolish. The Hotel Maine was built in 1884. That was another one. All the other hotels that they were looking at were built in the early 1900s, 1912 and 13. Because the city they wanted to demolish that. I think oftentimes they want to demolish the building because of the people that lived there. They might not be the most desirable people, and they think, those people, that problem's just going to go away. No, you're going to end up, the people are just going to be displaced.
Yeah, relocated.
And I have photographs. You have, some of the hotels with the homeless person sleeping out in front of the hotel rather than inside.
Yeah.
So you can't, fix the problem by demolishing the building. And, I'm glad that Sable at Stockton, we were able to say this. And what was interesting, because of that, we ended up getting the Captain Weber Award for Preservation.
Wow, isn't that
So,
something?
the city gave us an award for preservation. It's really crazy to me. But one of the things that gets me too is right now, how many? Do you know how many landmarks there are in the city of Stockton?
How many landmarks?
Right.
More than you would think. Christina Frankel shared with us that meeting in February is over 200, right?
No. So how many recognized landmarks that are have a landmark, a plaque, or a status that are recognized by the city of Stockton are 51.
Very few, yeah.
51.
Yeah.
And a majority of those are in the downtown.
Right.
You go south as far as the Sikh temple. That was the original, Sikh temple built in the United States, over 100 years old. And north, I think, is the farthest north is Harding Way. Now, how can you, like Burns Tower, UOP, none of those are historic, recognized as historic landmarks. So there's a whole lot of historic buildings. There's hundreds and hundreds of historic buildings. But to make something a landmark, it costs more to make it a landmark than to demolish it. So a lot of times, people, let's just demolish the building. It's easier. And something they never taught me when I was going to San Jose State, but this is something that I think it's a term they were using in redevelopment. The former redevelopment director of Stockton, he said the reason they wanted all the hotels to be demolished was they were land banks.
Land banks.
A land bank. So what does that mean? When you have these policies, they say, you can have an underutilized building. Well, usually what they mean by underutilized buildings are historic buildings. So whenever I hear that term, I think, oh my God, they're going to be tearing down more historic buildings. But what they would do is they want the property was more valuable to them with nothing on it. So they demolish it, and then they'd wait, we have a lovely piece of property for you to develop your new building on. So it's called a land bank for all the potential new development, all the desirable development that is going to come. I would like to applaud Dan Court for, he has looked at been very instrumental in renovating a lot of historic properties and doing a really wonderful job. But, we need to do that with all the historic properties.
With all of them. And Joy, it reminds me of almost like the fashion world. For a few years, this is in fashion, then something else. I mean, I look at my closet, I have things that I wore 20 years ago because they're back in fashion, I believe. But so similar to maybe also infrastructure, and I only think that there's no public swimming pool in downtown Stockton anymore. I could cry because it brought people together. So once it's gone, it's very difficult to bring it back. Right. Well, not in every case, but often the time. Yeah.
And so many. When you think of all the really special places that, to me, these places are all arts related. So when they're tearing all this down, they're really tearing the art out.
Yeah.
So one is it's now the Bob Hope Theater, but it was the Fox Theater. I think in the 80s or whatever year it was, they were going to tear that down for a parking lot.
For a parking lot. But a group got together and stopped them. And this is what I've studied, that every time that something's been saved, it's been a group of citizens that have come together. Oh, you're not going to tear that down. Right down the street here from the studio, they were going to tear down the El Dorado School on the corner because they said, it's not seismically safe, da-da-da. And a group got together and stopped them. Now it's an adult school. It may not be used as a grammar school and high school, whatever, but it's an adult school, and they're, people can learn, get their GED. Right, and what a beautiful building it is, yeah.
And so, just imagine if downtown especially, if you didn't have the Fox Theater and you didn't have the Hotel Stockton. You didn't have some of those glorious buildings, the Bank of Stockton. It would just look like any other downtown. Those particular buildings are our history and make Stockton special.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to live here. You know, when people say, oh, you know, you live, you know, in this hellhole. No, no. Have you really been to Stockton?
Right.
So a lot of times the people that are talking about Stockton haven't even been here.
Wow.
Yeah. and once they come, then they see for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that you've been very active in all kinds of community projects, and I'd like to thank you for helping me do the peace dove for
that was
Art
fun.
Against Violence.
Oh, anything for you, Joy. You do so much for the city. So any sewing project or organizing work you have for me, I'm there. That was fun.
So Martina came out and she brought her sewing machine over the Mexican Heritage Center, you know, trying to make a dove, a big bird that was like 20 feet wide by 12 feet long, and we had to stretch it out on the floor of the Mexican Heritage Center, and she helped sew all the pieces together, all those sheets together, and we made it into a bird that was displayed at the fairgrounds.
How
And
fun.
I'd like to thank my husband Frank too. He made the form,
The body.
made the head, and then Martina did the sewing, and then I did the finishing. So it was like a combined effort of 3 people.
Good teamwork. Mhm.
And I know that I saw you. I saw pictures of you. You were out at the Caldwell Park, and you were painting some
Oh my
some
goodness.
benches and tables. And
You know, actually, it makes me feel so good to do that because I drive by that park quite often, and now every time I drive by, I see somebody sitting at my picnic table.
Yeah.
And of course, it has a blue and white striped top.
Oh, there we go.
But the beautiful thing is also Bob Laird and I worked on that particular piece. So, of course, the bench he painted has poetry on it. And the trash bin that's right next to it has the birds and the sky, the blue sky over Stockton. And then the middle part, I painted the agricultural fields with strawberries and lettuce. And the bottom piece of the trash bin has the delta and sailboats on it. So people who sit there maybe look at the picture and think, that's all the beautiful things we have here in Stockton. So.
All
Yeah,
right. Very
I
good.
think that involvement makes one feel kind of proud, and I'm so happy when I drive by the park and I see somebody in the park at the beautiful benches we painted, our tables, and I'm hoping that our Inspire project, I'm 100% sure actually it will inspire people who drive around MLK Plaza in the future and look up and say, oh yeah, there's a historic piece of artwork that we preserved. And look how beautiful.
Yeah.
And on Pride Day, I can see it lit up in all kinds of rainbow colors. So, you know, it can be a nice spot for celebration and joy. And
Yeah.
everyone can enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I study what different cities are doing, and I finally made it out to the Sundial Bridge in Reading, and way back, probably I think it was about 15 years ago, they got this famous architect. He designed it, but it looks like a sundial, almost like the fin to a shark. And then it has the bridge coming across the water. But what they've done, right there, they have a museum, they have a gift shop, they have the trail, they have public art, but it's like a whole, it's just one piece of this whole magical area that they've created there by the waterfront.
And they made it a destination.
And they made it a
So,
destination
for
for.
people to come.
So when we get this sundial, at MLK Park, then that can just help make Stockton even more of a destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for its residents.
Sure.
So, I mean, if we live here and we don't enjoy our beautiful city, then what? So we have so many great things to enjoy here. I mean, people say nothing's going on in Stockton. There's 6 events going on every weekend. So many
Yes.
places and art and music and lots of love here in Stockton. Yeah.
Yeah, but every week when I write my column, my article for the Record, and I have to write, I'm writing about the arts, and I just have to figure out, okay, what can I fit into my 650 words, this week? I mean, there's so much going on, so, I try to highlight a few things, but, there's a dozen that I've left out.
Yeah. Can't do them all.
So I wanted to say why I have this shirt on. We have
nice.
Little Manila, and actually the Little Manila group, Don Mabalin and Dylan Delva, the reason they started Little Manila Foundation, Don's grandfather had a restaurant right coming off of the Crosstown Freeway, and it was right there. It was called the Gateway Block to Stockton. Right now we're the McDonald's, and they tore down the restaurant to put a McDonald's. But it was this historic place, and it was called the Lafayette Lunch Counter. And I saw a picture in the Record newspaper. That picture changed, really redirected my life. It showed Dawn Mabalin, just her devastation. Her head bowed, and she was just totally devastated to see her grandfather's restaurant destroyed for this. And I thought, no one should have to feel that way.
Yeah.
So, she had gone away to school, and they really didn't know, Dylan and Dawn and the founders, they didn't really know about the history of Stockton until they went to another city, and they learned in ethnic studies, they learned about Stockton's rich history and the history of Little Manila. And then she has devoted all these years to writing these books and, doing incredible preservation work. With the Crosstown Freeway, it just kind of obliterated, all these different areas of Chinatown and Little Manila, the African area, Japanese, a whole bunch of cultures, just because they wanted to put this freeway through. But she has like all the photos and records of the buildings that were there, and what existed at the time. And now they've started. This is so inspiring to me that they do an after-school program with students over at Edison High, and various students can be involved and can learn about our history.
Great.
And then, they go off, they want to, they go and get their education, get their degrees, but then a lot of them come back and have done all these wonderful things. We had Brian Batugo come back to Stockton, and now he runs the Little Manila Dance Collective.
I believe it has to do with a personal investment. If you personally tend to your garden and to your vegetables and you water them, you know the story of the little prince who has the rose on the planet, and somebody says it's just a rose. Yeah, but it's my rose, and it's the rose I love because I care for it. So I think there's a similarity when we as Stockton residents and citizens here get involved and care for our streets, for our community, for our children, for our homeless, for our families. It makes all the difference. And we can only start one by one or little by little, but but I believe it does make a difference. My husband and I actually hosted some friends for the last 3 years who didn't have a family or, got sick, got on disability, and we brought them to Stockton. And they have a basis, a platform for starting life all over. And so, when you have a place to live and beauty around you and people caring for you, how can you not do better?
Sure,
or be well and healthy? So in that sense, I know there's 350,000 residents in Stockton, but it's a big family.
Sure.
But we have downtown, we have Lincoln Village, we have Victory Park, we have Caldwell Park. There is something for everyone and for everyone to enjoy. So big enough, doesn't have to be, one thing for everybody. There's different tastes, like ice cream, One likes vanilla, the other one likes raspberry. So, but I think it's personal involvement when you actually say, well, you know what, I have never painted before, but let me roll up my sleeves and give this some color. And I experienced it when we did the work at Caldwell Park with Amy Seifert and Ann Wilcox for preparation for the stock market. People came from the neighborhood and said, is there anything you guys need? I can make a trip to Home Depot. One neighbor came back with 3 brooms and dustbins, and it was like amazing.
Wonderful.
He said, I may not be able to paint, but I can get you supplies.
There you
so
go.
that's investment. That's personal care and investment. And I think it pays off not only for the person, but for the community. So and I love that. I didn't know I love that. My life changed too when we moved to Stockton. So, yeah, who knew? It's wonderful.
And I'd like to also give a shout out to the Chinese Benevolent Association.
Yes, thank you for that, Joy.
They are absolutely, inspiring as far as saving history and tending to history. So they have the Confucius Hall, and people need to know the stories and the history behind these things. I thought, oh, what an interesting building on the side of the freeway. It looks Chinese. Well, there's this whole big history. That was from the 1920s originally, and then they added a actual auditorium behind the original building. And I learned that I think it was in the 50s, but everybody, that was a destination that they came and it was a gathering place. They showed movies and had entertainment and everything, and it was a neighborhood place. And there was another building right next to it. I think that was a church. And a few years ago, the whole place had fallen into disrepair. And I saw the photos and I thought, oh, my goodness, And, I've seen photos before, like the Hotel Stockton, before it was fixed up. But they decided, the Chinese Benevolent Association, they got together, all the members, the Chinese community, and they said, okay, what are we gonna do with this building? Are we just gonna go let it rot? But they ended up, doing all this fundraising within the group. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they renovated their building. They got it looking beautiful again. Now they have all kind of events in the auditorium. They have the Chinese culture camp. They have, Little Manila has had some performances there. They turned the other structure into a little theater, Red Dragon Youth Theater. They've done some plays there. And now they're thinking about putting a garden right on the corner there, on the corner of Hunter and Lafayette.
How wonderful.
So it's just like growing and growing.
Yeah. And it's the community, it's the involvement. So they revived it. It's
Right.
beautiful, and everyone enjoys driving by and looking at something beautifully painted and restored and brought back to life. So everyone.
I think, that's a testament, that's pretty much the a group of Chinese people from Stockton made this happen. I think it's time for us, the Filipino people made the little Manila happen. The Chinese made this happen. It's the time for the rest of us.
Yeah, find your niche.
To save all these landmarks and make them like a historic district. I know that we had talked about doing that in downtown, and bringing back the facades and making these buildings usable. It's one thing to just have a building just like sit there, but you need it to really be in use. That I do applaud, like Dan Court, that he's brought in schools and made a lot of these buildings now. They're charter schools,
Right.
and you see a lot of the kids downtown.
Yeah.
So what?
Jared Rustin and his new furniture
Right.
studio. So it's a live-in workspace, absolutely fabulous. If you haven't seen it,
I still haven't seen it.
oh, it's amazing. It's really amazing. So that is inspiring too. So there are many corners in downtown Stockton that are inspiring, and people in the past have felt inspired to, make them more beautiful. I mean, you paint the sidewalk.
Right.
I just want to preserve your paintings so they don't get washed away with the rain. But even in that is. It's a Zen thing, right? You paint something and then you wash it away. So
yeah.
I'm trying to understand that, but I think beauty inspires beauty, and people like to be in a nice place that is cared for. And I mean, if the city cares for itself, then it means also it cares for me and the people. So
So I think so many people they say, oh, we have to, I live in Stockton, but I have to go somewhere else to go see beauty. Well, if there's beauty, if you help create the beauty here, if you notice the beauty here, there's so much that you can just stay here.
Yeah.
You don't always have to go somewhere else to go look for it.
True. Very true. So explore your own city
There we
and
are.
find beautiful things.
Here we are.
And tell them to Joy.
So I think just more of us, we really need to get involved with Save Downtown Stockton Foundation and
Nice.
helping the work that collecting those histories of the buildings, preparing some of the documents, maybe.
Absolutely.
I think going to the city council and saying, maybe you can reduce the fees to make something a landmark.
Yes, that would be nice.
I mean, things, we should have way more than 50 landmarks,
Yeah. Well,
So-
we are trying to raise $100,000 just
For
for a
the-
backup plan, and we have around 10 right now.
And that's for the Spire.
Yeah, that's for
for the
this
spire.
one project only.
Right, yeah.
But yes, I invite anyone who wants to get involved. Please contact me on Facebook or through Joy, who has my email and phone number. Please contact me if you want to be part of our group and part of our foundation. We have different jobs or teams. We have social media. Somebody might be interested in working a few hours in our booth at the stock market and really speak with the public. So yeah, there's many ways we can really use your help, not only your money.
So what is the what's the website?
So the website is savedowntownstockton.org, and we also have a Facebook page. And we meet about once a month for a board meeting, and then we have team meetings on a Monday evening at the Rivi Castellanos Architecture. If you'd like to attend one of our board meetings, reach out to me, and I'll make sure you get invited. yeah, so my motto this month, the more the merrier.
There we go. So right now you said June 20th would be the date for the city council.
That is what I understand, but
Okay.
please check the Wednesday before. That is
So-
when something more urgently might come up, so it's not written in stone, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to just keep on top of that and pack that city council and say, you know, we want the Spire to be there at Martin Luther King Park. History needs all the help it can get, especially in Stockton. And, you know, to me, it's kind of a blend of, you know, what makes Stockton special. You got all the group of people that are here, all the different cultures. You got the beautiful, you know, environment with the waterfront, the delta, the landscape, just everything. And you have the history, you know, and it's all together. So we need all of it, you know, not just single out one thing, but, you know, keep it all and make it beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that you moved to Stockton.
Oh, thank you. I am happy we moved to Stockton too. Thank you, Joy.
And all that you've been contributing, and yeah,
But I can.
it's wonderful to see you out there, and you're at all the different events, and really, you know, putting your time into it. You know, it doesn't just have to be about money. I mean, volunteers. We really need a lot of volunteers, and you know, everybody's you know, assets, skills that we can bring to this. So I'd like to thank Martina
Oh, thank
Morio
you, Joy.
for being my guest today on Behind the Art Scene, and I'll see you next week.